This is honestly not super surprising, but it is tragic, and we need to emphasize the correct points in a moment like this. So Trump is now indicating, I'll show you the presser where he confirmed this, what first Marco Rubio said, which is that we have a few days where we're willing to continue negotiations with Russia. Now they do the whole both sides. We got to negotiate with Ukraine too. We need to convince them to peace, even though they've already agreed to peace. But it's Putin who's making the crazy demands. And if something doesn't come to fruition in the coming days, that they're going to move on, quote unquote, move on. This coming after, as I know you know, Trump said every negative thing under the sun about Joe Biden, justified by the fact that Biden couldn't get the war, quote unquote, settled. Because you got to settle, Trump would say. And again, maybe what was happening was Biden and others in the administration identified that Putin had no ambition for peace. And if Putin was going to continue the invasion, then the only thing we could do is make sure Ukraine could defend itself.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what the framework says, because when you start negotiating these things through the media and so forth, they fall apart. And it's a broad framework. It's a framework that gets us into a position to see, look, there are going to be differences. There's no one saying this can be done in 12 hours, but we want to...
No, you're right. Not 12. 24, Trump said hundreds of times. Not 12. 24. From being elected months ago.
Hours, but we want to see how far apart it is and whether those differences can even be narrowed, if it's even possible to get movement within the period of time we have in mind. And so we've talked about outlines of both sides. I thought we had positive meetings yesterday. Obviously, the Ukrainians have to go back home. They have to run it by their president. They have to take into account, their views on all of this, and we hope to hear back from them very soon. But we need to figure out here now, within a matter of days, whether this is doable in the short term. Because if it's not, then I think we're just going to move on.
We're going to move on. Now, here's what is catastrophic about that. If that were a Biden official, they would mean move on from current peace negotiations because clearly Putin doesn't want peace while continuing to support through intelligence, funds, and equipment Ukraine's defense of themselves. What Trump means, likely, and we'll hear from him in a second here, is move on from involving ourselves at all. And we've heard that before. He said that if we can't get something settled in some period of time that he won't identify, then we're just going to completely, I think he said, let them fight and not be a part of helping Ukraine. That would be horrific. And it's what our European allies, well, former allies, are preparing for. One other moment, though, from the same presser.
Because if it's not, then I think we're just going to move on from our perspective. The president feels very strongly about that. He has dedicated a lot of time and energy to this, and there are a lot of things going on in the world right now that we need to be focused on. So this is important, but there are a lot of other really important things going on that deserve just as much, if not more, attention. So
wow. It's truly a stunning statement, and I was half expecting Trump to kind of play it down, but he just full-on confirmed it.
Secretary Rubio said that the U.S. will have to figure out whether a deal can be done between Russia and Ukraine in a matter of days, or you will just move on.
Yeah, very shortly.
How many days is that?
No specific number of days, but quickly. We want to get it done. We're talking about here people dying, and we're talking about over there people are dying also, like on average 2,500 young people, soldiers. They're not from America. They're not from anywhere else other than Ukraine and Russia. But we want to save these lives. So it's 2,500 a week are being killed in battle. It's a vicious battle with the best equipment, the best everything, and it is brutal. 2,500 young people a week. Some of them not so young, actually. They're getting older. They're getting older by the month. But 2,500 a week, and we're going to get it stopped ideally. Now, if for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that.
You hear that? It's so twisted. If one of the two parties there's one party here that has irrational demands. Ukraine just, hey, stop. One party has irrational demands. And that's Putin saying he should be able to militarily decide the borders of Ukraine's country, their defensive abilities, which is what he wants as a part of an agreement, that they have to completely, kneecap themselves for defensive purposes, the alliances they're a part of as an independent sovereign country, and their economic associations through military force. That's Putin's demand. Zelensky's and Ukraine's is, we won't do anything to you if you'll just stop invading us. And he's saying there's a possibility that one of the two parties he'll have to say, you're fools and you're terrible people. And then he got asked, are you being played by Russia? Yes.
Do you think Russia's playing you?
No, nobody's playing me. I'm trying to help. This was Biden's war, by the way. By me getting involved, they'll say, oh, Trump. This is not Trump's war. This is Biden. This is a war that should have never happened. Okay?
You are the president of the United States. And
you said,
let's play this.
You would have this war settled in 24 hours.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. I'll end that war between those two countries in 24 hours. It won't even take that long. Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. I'll have that done.
All right, I'll stop it halfway through on this one. Why do I play that so much? And why do we talk about the fact that he broke his promise? Is it to say, ha ha? No. I wish that he could have gotten a fair agreement in 24 hours. It's kind of to point out how dishonest he is, but there's a much bigger point here. And it's the entire ideology that informed that belief from MAGA, from Trump, and from critics of supporting Ukraine. That's the thing I'm trying to expose here. That ideology is wrong because it's going to keep popping up, right? The authoritarian aligned Putin apologist angle that has said the only reason that this is not the only reason I'm picturing the only reason that this is not settled is because Biden is a warmonger and Ukraine just wants to fight. That idea they have not reassessed, which is what is bothering me. It's not just that you were wrong. Yeah, admit you were wrong. But you were saying Putin wants peace. You're going to have to reevaluate the last 2 decades of history and the current moment we're in thoroughly to understand why you were so wrong. It's not because Biden let it start. It's not because Ukraine shouldn't have picked a fight with meh, as he says. It is about an ideology and a misunderstanding of this conflict and its history that connects to the entire post-World War II world order that has been U.S. dominated, that they don't get. And they're wrong, not just because they're wrong about this, but because of the entire system of ideas that informs why they were wrong about this. And so what's never going to happen is they're not going to unravel that. They're not going to think, oh, wait, maybe our belief that the centralized control Putin has, that he's leveraging for this offensive, illegal military invasion of another country, and the expansionist empire building venture that is not so bad. That idea, it's not that. He just has genuine. He got provoked. So maybe his way of operating Russia in this authoritarian way, where he says we really get rid of wokeness and we're really the Christians, that maybe they'd have to rethink that. That the idea that it's not the power lusting endeavor that it is, but something different that then allows them to believe, as Tucker went and did the propaganda about, that maybe we should operate our country a little bit more like Russia's government, which is a part of the ideology here. That idea they'd have to rethink if they actually engaged with why Vice President Harris was so correct here.
These dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace.
Yeah. And that was right. That was right. One little update. CNN reports that Russian President Vladimir Putin declared a brief Easter ceasefire in his war with Ukraine. A declaration met with skepticism in Kyiv as the war enters a crucial phase and U.S.-led negotiations stall. I wonder why there's skepticism. It's almost like the last 3 bazillion ceasefires that they agreed to, they violated. And obviously this is a very brief Easter-related pause in hostilities. Share your thoughts in the comments. Get the bonus show by clicking that join button below.